What's going on, you guys, and welcome to On Air with Chris Shanafelt. It's something new I'm trying here, so every so often, just to give you a quick glimpse as to what we'll be doing here on Air. Every so often, I'll be talking with college football players, pro coaches, college coaches. It's a football show. And it'll be focused on the NFL, college football, specifically small school football, FCS, Division II, Division III, etc. And again, more times than not, we will have guests for you guys, whether they're players, coaches, writers, and bloggers, you name it. And really, without further ado, it is a pleasure to welcome on the first guest of On Air with Chris Shanafelt. He is the rusher in the FCS from just a season ago with a career high 1,388 rushing yards and 18 rushing touchdowns. He's the All-American running back and the reigning Patriot League Offensive Player of the Year, Dominick Bragalone. And Dominick, really appreciate you taking some time this afternoon. How's everything going?
Oh, it's going great. Thank you for having me on your show.
The pleasure is all mine, and let's just start off. I mean, 3 years under your belt at Lehigh, Dominick, and all 3 years you ran for over 1,000 yards and was voted first team All Patriot League. What are your expectations for year 4?
So just to go, there's a lot of goals and expectations for next year, but one of them is just helping the team win, helping them get Patriot or Patriot League champs 3 years in a row. So that's the main goal. But personally, I just want to keep doing what I've been doing. Hopefully, break the Lehigh rushing record. Maybe all league, all American. But all that stuff doesn't really matter as long as we're winning and as long as I'm helping the team.
Last year, quarterback Brad Mays, I mean, he had some really big shoes to fill as Nick Shafniski graduated and moved on. Mays proved a year prior, though, in 2016. I remember that game he threw for over 500 yards against Yale. So he proved in 2016 that he's capable at playing at a very high level, and that's what he was able to do last year as the full-time starter under center. It almost seemed like a seamless transition looking from the outside from number 9 to number 14, Dominick. How would you describe the transition between quarterbacks? I mean, Brad Mays last year threw for over or nearly 3,900 yards and 31 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, their way of playing is just complete opposite. Nick was a great running quarterback; he could throw the ball too, and then Brad, he's just an awesome passer. So Brad was fortunate enough to play a couple games as a freshman, and just get a feel and get an experience of it. And then this year he just took control of the team and the offense, and I think he did great. The numbers show he did, and he's a great leader. And I think him getting playing time as a younger guy really helped him turn into the quarterback he is today. And he has a lot of experience, and it's me and him and the rest of our offense next year. And we have big shoes to fill next year, but it's definitely possible, and we're capable of doing what we need to do.
Well, that you do, as in big shoes to fill. The offense does. I mean, 2 big-time offensive weapons in wide receiver Troy Pelletier and Troy alone, the all-time leader in receptions and reception yards in Lehigh history, and then Gatlin Casey. They graduate, they move on, and those two last year combined for 165 receptions for over 2,000 yards and 22 touchdowns. Dominick, this is probably a question better suited for quarterback Brad Mays or even the coaching staff, but who should we expect to step up at wide receiver? I'm not necessarily looking for the next Troy Pelletier or the next Casey. I mean, those are going to be, guys that are going to be very tough to replace. But somebody's got to step up, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, we have a ton of guys that are capable of stepping up and filling those shoes. One I can think of right now is freshman George, and he started as a freshman. He's a great receiver, so I'm sure he'll have a great year next year. Also, Luke Cristiano, he ended up getting hurt early on, and the first couple games he played, he was pretty deadly for us. So we definitely have guys that can do the job. Troy and Gatlin, they are great players, and they made it easy for us. They made our offense explosive, but every team graduates somebody, and someone has to step up. So I'm sure somebody going into camp and going into next year will step up and take that spot.
So, and just to put it into perspective, I mean, without Pelletier and Casey, next up was you and George as the team's leading receivers. So, the opportunity is certainly going to be there for guys to step up. Now, Dominick, the brown and white spring game was about a month ago. As somebody entering their fourth year, I mean, is that something you still look forward to? Spring ball, and how did that last spring game go for you?
Yeah, I always look forward to spring ball and the spring game. It's just another opportunity to get better and to get tackled, to get hit, and the whole winter break you're just working out, lifting, and you can't wait to get the pads on. And the spring game, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We went against our defense. They made big plays, and we made some big plays. And the defense looked really good, and our offense, we had some really explosive plays. So both sides of the ball are doing what we need to do. And it was a lot of fun. I always just look forward to playing a game, scrimmage, whatever it is.
You guys are tuned in to On Air with Chris Shanafelt. We're chatting with Lehigh Mountain Hawks All-American running back Dominick Bragalone. And Dominick, you kind of mentioned it early on in the interview, kind of where you stand in the record books. I mean, are you aware exactly where you are in the Lehigh record books?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for career rushing yards, I'm like 300 or 400 off. So I know that one. I'm not sure about the other ones.
Okay, I did do some research, and I think you're a little closer than you even think. You're second, of course, all time in rushing yards, 3,567. Only, at least from the record book that's posted on the Lehigh Mountain Hawks official website, you're only 130 yards away from claiming first place all-time rushing for Lehigh. You're third in career rushing touchdowns with 39. Rod Gardner holds the record with 42. So if all goes as expected, you'll probably hold the number one spot in both of those categories by a wide margin. Could you have ever imagined having this type of success? Again, the 2017 all-time leader, rushing leader in the FCS and the nation. Looking back to when you first took this opportunity and you decided that you were going to go to Lehigh and you passed on walking on at Penn State or at Rutgers, could you have ever imagined that you would have this type of success?
It's hard to tell because high school football is so much different than college, but I knew with my coaches and my work ethic and my God-gifted talent that I had the opportunity to, as long as I just kept my head straight and did what I had to do. And just going into freshman year at Lehigh, I was determined to play as a freshman, and fortunately I ended up starting my first game. And just after my freshman and sophomore year, I really started to get the hang of it. And last year I've been the most confident I've ever been in football. So I'm expecting the same senior year, and expecting to do just as well.
Well, looking at your guys' schedule this year, Dominick, your guys' non-conference opponent schedule is very intriguing as it was a year ago. You guys open up the season at home against St. Francis. Week 2, you guys host Villanova, followed by a 3-game stretch on the road at Navy, at Penn, and at Princeton before kicking off conference play back at home against Fordham. How do you make sure you guys don't get off to the slow start that you guys got off to last year against those non-conference opponents?
We just have to minimize our mistakes. Last year, we had a ton of turnovers early in the season, a bunch of mistakes, let up a lot of points. So, as long as we can play these teams as well as we did in league, then we should be fine. We're going to get after it in August, and we're going to make sure we're ready for week 1.
Well, the way you guys were able to bounce back last year was really something to watch, especially there against the conference opponents in the Patriot League. Again, you guys started the season dropping your first 5 games, 0-5 to start the season before winning 5 of your last 6 before the FCS playoffs, in which you guys went up against Stony Brook, lost that game. But talk about the atmosphere in an FCS playoff game, Dominick. Last year, again, you guys went against Stony Brook in the first round. The year prior, you guys went up against New Hampshire. in the playoffs. What were those? What were those experiences like, and will those past experiences help you guys out this season?
Yeah, it's just it's fun. It's fun playing teams out of conference. The past 2 years we played teams in the CAA, so they're obviously good, and we're playing during Thanksgiving, which is different. But if you're playing past Thanksgiving, that's a good sign. So it's just a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's exciting. It's just an exciting week. And this past team last year, we've been through it twice actually. So we know what to expect, and we know what we need to do to hopefully make it to playoffs again and win a game, or make a run. Because the past 2 years were pretty disappointing, but you can always turn that around.
Yeah, and hey, once you get in, anything can happen. Just got to get into that first round of the FCS playoffs, and we've seen it year in and year out. Anything can happen. Dominick, I'm curious, how would you describe your game? I mean, when watching you, kind of a bigger, I guess, kind of what they call a bruiser back, but you're not afraid to. We've talked about the success you've had running the football. You're not afraid to kind of do the dirty work either, whether it's blocking, and you're certainly a reliable pass catcher if need be as well. How would you describe your game?
Yes, I'm just a big physical back. At 230, I have speed and I have power to run past guys, run through guys, and I take a lot of pride in just my offensive line and the holes that they make, and they make it easy for me. But I just do what I gotta do. And blocking, I love blocking. Sometimes running backs won't say that, but it helps the team out. It helps me be a all-around football player, and it's just hitting. I like to hit, so I'm just a physical one cut back and go.
Your guys' game is very different, but I'm curious. A guy that plays in the same or played in the same conference as you in the Patriot League at Fordham, Chase Edmonds. Again, I mean, pretty different style of game. He's 5'9", 205. He was drafted in the 4th round of the NFL draft, though, by the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, what was it like to kind of see what he's been able to do? And, again, you got a full season left to go there at Lehigh, but, there's some buzz circulating around your name when it comes to the 2019 NFL draft. I don't know if that's something you really put much thought into yet, but, again, I mean, being a running back, again, I know you guys have different styles of game, but, any respect or what was it like watching Chase Edmonds over the past 3-4 years?
Yeah, so we're definitely we have different styles of playing, but one thing I've noticed in Chase is just his confidence on the field, telling himself and knowing that he's the best player on the field, and that's the type of mindset you got to have, whether it's true or not. As long as you believe it, you can do anything. And I've noticed that in him. I've seen that in him, how confident he is. And the numbers show he was on track to break in like the all-time record for FCS, but the injury slowed him down. So, he's a great player. He was All-American, I think freshman of the year. So he's a great player, and I wish him all the luck. He's representing the Patriot League, and, him doing well is going to help me. It's going to show these NFL guys that people in the FCS can do it. They can play at the professional level, the Patriot League, and I wish him the best of luck and hope he does well next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dominick, I think that's about all we have for you. Really do appreciate you taking some time this afternoon. Really enjoyed this conversation with you, and really looking forward to seeing what you're able to do this senior year of yours there at Lehigh, man. Congrats on what has already been a very successful career, and best of luck to you in year 4.
Thank you. I appreciate it.